Well, hello guys. Welcome back for the show. I'm so glad you're here. I have a great guest for us today. His name is Clay Novak. He is pretty incredible, okay? I have to read this to you because it's like this really cool pedigree, basically. Now it made you sound like a dog or something. That was messed up.
Don't oversell it. Don't oversell it.
No, it's really impressive. So retired Army Infantry Lieutenant Colonel, 5-tour combat veteran, 3-time bronze medal recipient, and now author. So just adding author to the list of incredible things. So first and foremost, thank you for your service. And of course, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, I made an assumption, Clay, when you first told me about your book and we talked about coming on the show, I assumed that this was going to be a book about your experiences, over in Afghanistan and your Army life and everything. And I was actually really excited to find out that this was a fiction book, and this book looks so good. I started reading it, as I told you before we started doing all the traveling, so I'm trying to catch up. And you've got me like right from the first page, which is like the most important thing to do. And I love your female character. I want to ask you a little bit first before we even go into the book. I have to know more about your background. So tell me what drew you to joining the Army and just choosing that path.
So I'm a Chicago kid. Born and raised outside the city. I come from a very, very blue collar family. Both of my parents worked. My dad was a union sheet metal guy my entire life. I have an older sister and a younger sister. And when it came time to go to college, it was a challenge for mom and dad financially. So my older sister's 2 years older than me. My little sister's 3 years younger. After my freshman year of college, I had no option. I was told I was going to college, whether I wanted to or not. But my older sister's, she's in her senior year. I'm in my sophomore year. I've got a younger sister who's a couple of years behind me. And mom and dad said, yeah, you're going back to school, but you got to figure out how to pay for it. So I had a good friend of mine who came to me and said, hey, I found out he was kind of in a similar situation financially. And he said, I found out that in Illinois, if you're going to a state school, which we were, and you enlist in the National Guard, they pay your tuition. So now I came from a family that all served. My dad served during the Vietnam War. I had 2 grandfathers that served, World War II veterans, extended family, almost everybody's a vet. So I thought this was a great idea. And the 2 of us enlisted together. And the shorter version of the story is that I went to the following summer. I enlisted in November of 1992 as an infantryman. And I did that because the National Guard unit that we wanted to join was an infantry unit. And that was just kind of the local thing. So I enlisted. I went through basic training and advanced individual training infantry school down at Fort Benning, Georgia in the summer of had And I fell in love with being in the Army. I fell in love with the Army. I did not like being private. So I had a drill sergeant who kind of took me under his wing a little bit, and he said, hey, you're a smart kid. You're a National Guardsman, are you going to college? And I said, yes. And he said, listen, you probably need to look into ROTC. So when I went back to school in that, the fall of '93, I did. I joined ROTC full time, spent my last couple of years going through ROTC. And that's how I got my commission. And I got commissioned in July of 1995 and went on active duty as an infantry officer. As challenging, I figured if I was going to go in the Army, I might as well challenge myself. So I became an infantry officer, and then I went through the normal kind of growth that infantry officers go through. I went through the basic course. I went through airborne school where I learned how to jump out of planes. Really fell in love with that. I went through United States Army Ranger School, graduated from there, had some more professional education, and then that kind of kicked off my Army career. And I bounced around like most Army officers do. Spent my lieutenant years at Fort Riley, Kansas. Moved from there to the infamous Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne Division, where I spent a good bulk of my career. I called that my Army home. It was my favorite place to be. I spent 4 years there, but inside of those 4 years is when 9/11 happened. I was a captain, an infantry company commander, commanding a company full of paratroopers when the towers fell. The June of 2003, we were in Afghanistan. We got deployed. So it was June of 2002. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. But that was the first of 5 deployments. We went over there in June of 2002. I was home from Afghanistan before the war in Iraq ever started. So I was in this from pretty close to the beginning. And again, that was the first of 5. So I did Afghanistan in 2002. Came back, continued to move through my career. Did a year in Korea, 2006-07. Went to Iraq, fall of 2007, straight out of Korea. Back to Fort Bragg. 2008-09 to Baghdad. 2009-10 to Kabul, Afghanistan. 2000, correction, man, I'm losing track. I guess that was 10-11. Yeah, it was 8-9 in Baghdad, and then 10-11 to Kabul. And then my last one was 12-13 back to Afghanistan. So Iraq twice, Afghanistan 3 times, and then a trip to Korea in there just, because. So yeah, it was, I was over there a bunch, got more familiar with Afghanistan than Iraq, truthfully, just because of the amount of time. I retired about 3 years ago, middle of 2019, total of 24 plus years as an active duty infantry officer.
That's incredible. What's the transition into civilian life been like for you? It's so great. That's nearly 25 years of your life. It's incredible.
It was, and that, truthfully, that's where the book came from. As crazy as that sounds, a lot of us will, as we transition, will continue to stay underneath that big umbrella that is the Department of Defense. There's plenty of opportunities to become a civilian employee for DoD, Department of the Army, Department of the Air Force, whatever department of whatever. You can do contracting work. There's plenty of opportunities to work in the defense industry. I chose to not do that. I went a completely different direction just to try something different. I worked in the civilian sector, have been working in the civilian sector since I retired. But as I transitioned, I had a couple of my mentors, a couple of retired general officers who said, you're going to have a hard time staying as mentally engaged in the civilian sector as you have been in the military. And it's not a knock on the civilian sector. It's just, the military is so high sensory engagement all the time, 24/7, 365. Even when you're at home, you're still engaged. You work a lot of long hours. It's very much a team aspect. Not only are you working on, say, a project, or you've got an operation in front of you, you're planning a mission, but you're also doing it. Nobody does anything by themselves in the military. You're always engaged with a group of people. You've always got a team. You're a member of a team, or you've got a team around you. And that was, kind of their forewarning. You may not have that as you transition. So you've got to find something to keep your brain engaged. And they both used the word creative, which was very interesting because I never considered myself to be a creative person. I don't paint, I don't sculpt. I'm not musically inclined at all. But a good friend of mine, 2 good friends of mine, actually, in somewhat rapid succession. My best Army friend said, "Hey, you were always a great, staff writer, produced some really good written products for the Army. Maybe you should look at that." And he thought kind of along the same lines you did, which was, you've been deployed a bunch, we've all got great stories to tell. Maybe you should tell some of those stories. But my best friend in the world, the closest thing I have to a brother, is a TV writer, and has been working in that industry for decades. He said, "Hey, look, you've got a creative brain. There's a ton of information. You've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories." He said, "Why don't you try your hand at something fictional? You can, and the way he kind of led me to it was, you can create whatever you want. It's an amazing experience." And that's what he always enjoyed about TV work is, there's no limit to what you can create. And he said, "Why don't you try it?" It is. So really what I was doing was, I had no outline. I had no arc. I had no characters. I had nothing. I just started to write. And it was very 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, my lunch hour, waiting for a meeting. It was very catch as catch can, bits and pieces. And then this story started to form, and I kind of caught myself along the way where it would be, I'd be at home at night and my brain would start to cycle, and I like pieces would start to come together, and I would go, I wonder if I could do that. There's actually a lot of things that have been edited out of the book that I wrote just to see if I could write them.
Right.
And part of the editing process, those things, you read it, you go, well, that's completely irrelevant, and it comes out. but I wrote it just to see if I could. And again, that there was never an intent to publish. Never. I wrote this just to write. And then as the story developed, I said, I wonder if I could actually write a novel and finish it. So I did. I finished it, and you kind of write what you know. So go figure that the main character, take it into context. I was just writing to write, but the main character is a retired infantry lieutenant colonel, Army officer, right? And there are characters within the book that are loosely based on people I know. They're personality characteristics of this person and this person, and you kind of mash them together and you make a character. And there are stories in there that are bits and pieces of reality, and some of it's not true and some of it is. But it built itself into this story. And I handed it off to only two people. I handed it off to my friend, the TV writer, just like, hey, you told me to do this, or give it a shot. I did it, have a read. And then I gave it to my dad, who is he is an avid reader. He eats books. I mean, it's amazing. But when I was a kid, he would literally throw things at me and say, "Here, read this. Here, read this. Here, read this." So my imagination, I think, and my love of reading comes directly from that. So I gave it to my dad, and he read it, and it sat for a year.
Wow.
Literally did nothing with it. And finally, my friend, the TV writer, came back and said, nobody really writes a 300-page novel and then doesn't do anything with it. And he goes, you probably need to get this out there. So I did. I looked into self-publishing, which I had neither the background nor the time to figure out.
Sure.
I talked to a few people about trying to get a traditional publishing contract, which, if you're not a known author, is a very, very difficult thing to do. So I found co-publishing or hybrid publishing, right? I think those terms are interchangeable nowadays.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, so I found a co-publishing hybrid publishing company, and I submitted it to them, and they came back within I think about 72 hours and said, yeah, we want to do this.
Nice.
I was like, okay. And that was February of this year of 2022. Wow. So then I had to turn around and tell my wife that I had not only written a book that she had no idea about.
Wow. What?
But yeah, but also that somebody wanted to publish it. And her first question, it was funny because, mind blown. Our first question was exactly along the lines of what you said. She's like, "It's not autobiographical, is it?" No, it's not. It is purely fiction. It's a novel. But this publishing company is interested in publishing it, and you have to try. Is what she said. So
that's awesome.
So we did. So I agreed. I signed the contract. Probably the thing I'm most proud of in the entire process is that normally there's a couple of there's line editing, content editing. My manuscript was clean enough that they combined it to one.
Nice. That's almost unheard of.
Right. So I lucked out. I thank a couple of very good English teachers along the way, but I also thank my mother. And I know this is a little bit odd, but she forced me as a freshman in high school to take typing.
Oh.
So I'm a two-handed QWERTY 10-finger typer,
sure.
and I type quickly, but it helped me keep everything clean on the pages and all those sorts of things, because I actually know how to type. But yeah, so it ended up being one editing process, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
As stressful as that kind of was. Not because I was worried about the content, but more along the lines of, we're getting that much closer.
Right.
It's that much closer to publication.
Yeah, it's actually really daunting. It's, it's as exciting as it is terrifying because you're putting yourself out there. You're putting your work out there
100%.
for public consumption, for critique and criticism and likes, dislikes, and people are so brave behind their keyboards. So, you never know what people are going to say or how they're going to react. And it is really a big deal. And, it's,
you can't take it back.
Yeah.
You can't take it back.
You can't take
Once
it back.
it's out there, and it's not even like, I in my own head, it's not even just like the internet. Like you said, people are brave behind keyboards, and, truthfully, as those things, as more people add comments, those things scroll to the bottom of the screen and they kind of lose relevance. But a book never goes away.
Right.
Never. It's in the library. It's in where it's going to be in somebody's garage sale book box.
Yes.
Truthfully, maybe next week for a nickel, but it never goes away. I mean, that really never goes away. So,
yeah, absolutely. So much of what you've said and your whole process of this and your journey towards writing this book is so fascinating to me. I'm so amazed at and I'm jealous, to be honest with you, what an incredible marriage of all of these elements to be able to make the book that you made. Because on one hand, with your military career, that's very structured, very disciplined, very orderly and in control. I know there's a lot of chaos that goes on too, but conceptually, it's something that's very straight lane, and there's no gray areas, right? No deviation. And then it turns out, as a writer, as a creative writer, you're actually what we call, I don't know if you've heard the term, but a pantser. A pantser.
Yes, right? I've heard that recently.
Yeah, you're a pantser, which is like so crazy to me, to be able to have both, really both sides of your brain essentially so perfectly in sync like that, and to be able to have both of those outlets is what an incredible gift. And like I said, I'm so jealous. I'm a hardcore pantser. Like, my brain is chaos, but when I, much like you did, when you sit down in front of the keyboard, the words just happen. The story it kind of starts to tell itself, and then you're almost living in it. Did you find that with writing this book, that you were like kind of like living in this story, or? Yes.
100%. And I think I'm, like I said before, so you write what you know. He's a retired Army lieutenant colonel. When people who know me read the advanced copy of the book, and they're like, oh, this guy's a lot like you. Yeah, well, go figure. But I think that, to your point, drew me even further into this story, because it's not autobiographical, but, his voice is similar to my voice. Right. And you do, and the characters in the book are pieces of people that I know. So in my head, I see things that make it very, very real, in the process. So yeah, it definitely drew me in. There were days and nights where I would start thinking, and it would just cycle and cycle and cycle. And it was just, I was in the middle of it. So yeah, it's been that process, again, totally foreign. I didn't know that it was going to turn into this, especially after I made the decision that I'm going to make this a book. I'm going to finish this. Then it became, much more involved, much more intense, as far as, the way my brain would focus on, well, what am I going to do next? How am I going to get from point A to point B? And how is it going to get there? But never once did I write an outline or an arc of any kind.
I love it. I love it. This pantser loves it. The plotters are like, yeah. I'm like, yes, that's awesome. So, in case we didn't say it, and if we did, I want to say it again, that the name of the book is Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. And I love the cover too. So tell me about the cover design a little bit too. So I'm sorry, I need to know like all of the things.
No, it's great. So that I'm the publishing company is Kohler Books, and John Kohler, who is the owner, is a graphic designer by trade. So he gets very involved with the cover design process. So
Nice.
the way that they operate, the way the company operates is they gave me 5 cover concepts to pick from. We rank ordered them. They rank ordered them. They had a cover designer, assigned to me. She did fantastic work. She designed 5 covers. I rank ordered them. We came to an agreement of the top 2, and then they do a public poll.
Oh, fun.
Which is fun, right? And talking to John Kohler, their goal within a week or so is to get somewhere around 200 or so votes, one way or the other. So they just get a sensing of the public opinion. Well, I reached out. Us military folks got pretty wide net. We got networks all over the place. So I reached out to just about everybody I could think of through social media, and I said, hey, this is out there. Here's the link. Go vote. 24 hours plus or minus 500 and something votes within 24 hours on the 2, to pick between the 2. So way overshot the expectation from the publishing, the publisher. And actually they picked the one that I didn't want, or the one that I liked less than the other.
Isn't that funny?
It is funny. And I got all kinds of comments back because a lot of these people are folks that I know. The cover version that I wanted was very, I guess, more masculine, if you want to call it, but it was more, to me, focused on the character. It had guns on the front and that kind of thing. And I got a lot of feedback from, a lot of people like, oh, this one's, it's got more adventure. I like the blue color. The other one kind of had more of a tan gray tinge to it. I got some feedback that actually said this one's actually much more appealing to women. And I was like, okay.
I know, so, right? Like, okay, yeah. I guess you know my book better than I do.
Yeah. So that was the cover we picked, and that's how we got there.
That's wild. I love it. What a smart strategy to develop interest in the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
People love to be invested in a part of, like, I picked this cover, or I was part of picking out this cover. Right. Of course I'm going to read it, and I'm going to tell everybody about it. I helped pick out this cover. So very, very smart in the marketing lane as well. You really got with a great group of people there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so keep moving, keep shooting is the title. It's kind of the moniker of the main character. It's something that he picked up early in his Army career. And that's, when in doubt, keep moving, keep shooting. And that's, I had heard it years and years when I was a private going through basic training, and it was a very, it wasn't any kind of motto or anything that we cheered on, but it was a very simple statement by one of our drill sergeants, and a young soldier like me, a private, asked a question, and he looked at him and said, "Private, when in doubt, keep moving and keep shooting." And that was it. And it stuck with me. It wasn't so much a mantra. It just seemed very commonsensical, right. As an infantryman, and especially, in combat, the last thing you want to do is get pinned down. The last thing you want to do is, so when in doubt, keep moving and keep shooting.
I like that.
Terry Davis is the main character's name, and that's kind of his moniker for life, not just for his career in the Army, but for life. And that's what he follows all the time.
Give a little bit of the blurb, the back cover, the synopsis, a little bit of it. Well, not the synopsis. I don't get to know the whole story, but
so it's I always have to be careful because there are a lot of twists and turns in the book. And a couple of great reveals at the end, which as a pantser is amazing to pull off, I think. So the 2 main characters are Terry Davis and as you mentioned, his female counterpart, Dr. Margaret Peggy Barron, and Terry has transitioned, right? He's transitioned. He's retired. He is living with her out in the Midwest, Nebraska prairies. And he has, made that kind of, or is trying to make that mental transition. He's trying to turn the volume down on life and slow things down and, enjoy being outside and doing the things that he likes to do. Peggy, on the other hand, is she's a Middle East expert. She's still very much involved in the defense structure. She's leaned on by Department of Defense and the various commands that operate in the Middle East, CENTCOM and SOCOM and, some others. They reach out to her when they've got a problem that they need some input on. She's a cultural expert. She knows the languages. She knows the history. And they find themselves very, very quickly involved in what appears to be a terrorist threat against the United States, and focused through Peggy, and then it develops and it morphs and it grows, and they find themselves on the run a little bit, and then it unveils itself to be something very unlike what they expected in the end. Which, again, I don't want to reveal too much, but along the way you'll meet some other great characters. Some folks both new to Terry and Peggy, but also some old friends of theirs from different parts of their lives. It's a great winding story along the way. And I'm really proud of it.
I can tell you right from page one, right from the very first paragraph, these are characters that you actually believe, that you can believe exist and are real, and it pulls you right in, and you just have a great way of painting the picture of showing the story and not telling it. And that, that's a gift. That's the thing that all writers, aspiring writers, struggle to do. And that's amazing to me.
So, my dad, huge influence on me. And after I decided to move forward with this and go through the publishing process, I kind of reached back out to him and I said, okay, Pop, how, if you had to put me in a box, who would you compare my style of writing to? And there was a number of authors that I read from him, as a younger man. And he said, truthfully, and if anybody's familiar with the, intrigue, military fiction kind of genre, there's a great author out there named W.E.B. Griffin, who has written a couple of series that are pretty well known. Brotherhood of War is probably the longest standing one. But my dad actually surprised me, and he said it reads a lot like early Clancy, which I don't know if I would ever classify myself in that realm. Tom Clancy, especially early Clancy, Hunt for Red October and Red Storm Rising, and all those great titles. He was a master.
Yes.
Man, was phenomenal. And I would never classify myself there, but
yeah, but your dad, the avid reader, did, and his opinion on that counts more than yours. Sorry.
Yeah, well, he, and it is, and he's very blunt. So I know he wasn't softening the blow. He wasn't pulling my chain.
Right.
So
yeah, I was already making the guess, when you said the military background, the whole family and all that. I'm like, yeah, these are not people that are gonna, soften the blow and pull punches.
No,
they're gonna tell you how it is.
Yeah, none of it's been soft. None of it. So.
Now that you've written this book, do you think there's more in the tank?
The sequel's already done.
Yes. I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah.
Not only do I love sequels, most readers, I've never met a reader that doesn't love a sequel or love knowing that there is going to be more. So
there is a sequel. The third book is already in the works.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So
I equate writing to the way that I've heard. I don't have any tattoos, but the way I've always heard people talk about their tattoos, they say once you get one, it's addictive. It's a compulsion. You have to have more. And I always think of writing that way, that once you write one book, you can't stop there. You have to keep writing more.
So I'll throw you a curveball. I have one tattoo. Now I believe
gotta be Army. Is it an Army?
It is very Army, yes. And I served for almost all of my time in the 82nd Airborne Division. I served in a very specific brigade, 3rd Brigade of the 82nd, the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment, which is very, very historic. I spent a number of years there, lucky enough. So I have that regimental crest tattooed on my rib cage.
I love
it. But there has been lots of contemplation about more tattoos, and it is that exact same feeling.
Yeah.
So,
my husband falls in that same boat too. He's got his Marine Corps tattoo and that's it. And he's talked about getting more. He's talked about freshening it up and all of that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe you guys are just a different lane than regular tattoos. I don't know.
Mine was a little bit odd because I got mine at 38 years old. The middle of the afternoon. Like there was no alcohol involved.
Yeah, no drunken story to go with it.
Nope. made an appointment, like all of that. It was definitely not your Friday night, $75, drunken stupor kind of tattoo.
Yeah, grown-up tattoos are so different.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, Clay, tell everybody where they can find you, find your books. If you have any appearances coming up anywhere for book signings, let's get it all out there for people.
So the book is available on Amazon.
Awesome.
Keep Moving, Keep Shooting. You can, my name, Clay Novak, search it any way you want. It's available hardcover, softcover, and Kindle. You can also get it through Barnes & Noble online. You can either order it, have it delivered, or order it, pick it up in store. It is still, the publication date was just, what's today, the 26th?
Yeah,
so
it's a book, baby. It's only 6 days old, right? The
6
20th.
days old, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like finding a hard copy anywhere right now is probably not happening. But you can order it.
Awesome.
And they are being delivered. I've already had people reach out to me and say, hey, it showed up on the doorstep this morning.
Outstanding.
And then the other place is a place called IndieBound. So IndieBound I'd never heard of. You probably have, but I think it seems to me to be a feeder from the independent bookstores, right? Mm-hmm. That's where they, can order from or order through. So if you go to IndieBound and search the title, search my name, it'll show you bookstores in your area where you can order it through them, and they can get it on hand, and you can pick it up. I also have a website, claynovak-author.com. I am selling hard copy, soft copy, autographed copies of my book. Nice. If folks are interested in that. Additionally, I do some blogging. I am who I am. It's, like you said, when you start writing, you like to continue writing.
Yes.
And my blogs are great. They're not even magazine article length. It's very short. You can read them in a few minutes. I am somewhat opinionated, but I will tell you that my opinions are not always reflected in what I write. My goal for my blog is always to get people to think beyond what they know and what they believe. So there's a lot of things written in there. I would say a lot. There are things written in there that I don't even support myself, but I wrote it just to cause people to think. So there's a blog in there. There's probably about 50 blog entries. You can dig through those and read as much as you want.
That's it. Now I'm even more intrigued. Now I got to read them. I read them anyway, but now I'm even more intrigued.
So that's claynovak-author.com. And so scheduling for book signings is open. Again, it's a baby book. Don't have any of those on the calendar yet. But if somebody's interested, I'm definitely willing to do it. If you have a book club, I actually would love to sit in a room full of readers and talk to folks who've read the book and give insight.
Book clubs are so fun.
Yeah, I would love to do that. If anybody's interested, you can reach out to me. I have a contact me on my website. So if you're interested in either a book signing or even a book club, let me know. And this is all new to me, so I'm kind of working through that stuff. But reach out to me and we'll figure something out. I'm definitely want to get out there and talk to folks and talk to readers and interact with people and really share,
absolutely.
Right? Share what I've written. And I really want what you were talking about, which is the people to say, have you read this? Have you seen this? Like, that's the reaction I want.
Yeah.
Is for other people to share it, not just me out there, campaigning to sell the book. I'd like people to enjoy it enough that they pass it along.
Absolutely. You're doing all the right things with it. And it's a story that's going to sell itself. And that's huge right there, that it's a story that, once people pick it up, they're going to want to keep reading and get that sequel the minute it comes out. So now I got to put you on the spot and ask you to come back again when the sequel comes out, and we can talk about that book too.
100%. Absolutely.
Yes. Don't you love when I put people on the spot like that? Like, who's going to say no on air?
I wouldn't say no anyway.
Awesome. I love it. Clay Novak, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great talking with you and hearing about your amazing book. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks. Absolutely. It was fun being here. I really, really enjoyed it. And thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. All right, guys, this has been, you know what show it is. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye, guys. Hey, family, if you're looking for the perfect gift for the reader in your life, why not check out one of my books? They're all available on Amazon and most major online book retailers, as well as elsakurt.com.